On this episode of the show, I have with me Yogi Goel. He is the co-founder and CEO at Maxima. And we're going to be talking about how they look for outlier candidates. I mean, he's looking for high alpha people, but always not with the background that you might think. And he'll talk to us a little bit about what that means. And obviously, he's looking for people that have gone through some type of personal transformation in the hopes that they're going to translate that into their careers and their jobs and the teams. And we're going to talk about solving hard problems and when you bring a diverse set of group of people, how those things kind of work out. Yogi, thanks for taking the time.
Thank you so much for having me, Amir. What a delight.
Why don't you tell us a little bit about what Maxima does?
Yeah. So Maxima AI is an agentic platform for enterprise accounting, where we automate the day-to-day accounting operations as well as month-end processes for mid-market to enterprise companies. We have significant customers in Rippling, Scale AI, Spot On, and many other high-growing companies who are getting three values from our agentic product. One, we are able to save them significant cost and time in their accounting processes. Second, they are able to produce accurate financials because we are co-writing, our agents are co-writing the financials package for them. And the third is they are able to have happy and energized employees who are not doing mundane repeat things which do not require judgment for which they studied in for many years in school.
Absolutely. All right. So this episode, we're going to be talking a little bit about hiring and kind of the aptitude and the type of people you look for and how that might be impacting what you guys are doing. So you mentioned you guys are okay with outlier candidates. And the reason I'm going to start off with that is I do own a recruiting company. I used to be an engineer, but my job is recruitment now. And I rarely hear people come and say, give me the outlier candidate. That is, it doesn't happen always. So tell me, first of all, let's define what outlier means, because I think it's kind of hard because everybody has their own vision of the ideal. But when we talk about an outlier candidate, what does that mean?
Yeah. So I think of an outlier candidate in one word as a potential future founder. We have all met those people. Think back to your college or high school days, whether they're at the fraternity or the sorority, who are the people who may not be like necessarily top of the class in terms of grades, but they just are fast thinkers. They have this ability to organize events, and they find these tickets to things. They are just very, very get shit done type of people. And the other attribute about them usually is that they are very bold and plucky. So they have confidence in themselves. They have positive attitude about the future. So in that, if I am looking for that, these people could come from any background. I think school matters rarely. We have one of our salesperson who has done very little sales, but was an Olympic candidate for United States in wrestling. And he trained as a wrestler for 10 years. And then he was a mixed martial arts athlete. And you can imagine that that person is showing ton of guts, has obviously incredible amount of grit. But obviously, this person has not spent a lot of time wearing suit and tie at IBM learning sales. But because they have these other attributes, I feel very confident that they'll be able to pick things up. Similarly, we have few people, one of our best engineers decided to drop out of high school to actually work in a manufacturing facility because of his family's conditions at the time. But he had passion for software development. He didn't finish his high school. He definitely didn't go to college. And he's one of the best software engineers. So the way, and it matters. So one, I really care about people who are out there to transform themselves. I've done that. And I think they write the future. But there's also a very logical reason to that. The logical reason is invariably when you build a company, a startup, things will change. You will get punched in the face. Whatever good plans that you came up with, what idea you thought So the initial sort of the 30, 40, 50 people, I feel like have to have that future founder mentality. They can quickly think. They can get stuff done. They have huge amount of confidence that they will be able to come up trumps at the end of the day, and they honestly have a point to prove in the world. Like when I was in accounting and finance in my early days, I felt like I had not proven myself to the world, where I felt like there was so much more I had to give, and that what which uh, forged me to become an entrepreneur. And we are looking for more such people to get their learning. And I've seen this, and this is one final point on this, is I've been fortunate to be part of a journey of a startup to a IPO before, called Rubric, where I took the company, I helped the company go from 5 million ARR to a billion ARR, and a $15 billion IPO on New York Stock Exchange. And as I look back at the colleagues who I admired the most and who really sort of lifted the whole company on their shoulders over the years, they had these common attributes. So it has been thought through, and at least into my experience, seen through practical experience.
Absolutely. I love that, because I do think there's a lot of value in looking for people that you might gloss over, especially when you get a glimpse of a resume for a few seconds and you're supposed to make a decision, right? I mean, we don't get a lot of time to go, oh, wow, let me spend more time diving into that background. I guess one of the challenges that comes with opening yourself to Outlier. So obviously, there are some biases we can use. Go to a good school. Well, my biases, well, you went through a lot of tests to get there. That helps validate it. You went to a good internship. Again, there's some biases that we assume that person has has achieved a higher bar to get to that internship. And some of these biases and stereotypes, they hold for a lot of cases, but they are what they are. I guess when you look at your hiring process, and when you do look for the outlier person, you're less worried about a specific school, specific degrees. Does it pose a challenge in terms of going through and assessing? Because I'd assume you lose some of those easier flags, those easier tells, and you've got to rely on actual evidential inventory data to make some of these decisions.
Yes. And I think this assessment problem is a real one, and we'll run into this problem more and more as our hiring needs increase into very high numbers. But right now, the way we are solving it, and we continue to hope to solve it, is don't think of hiring as a short-term project, but as a constant conveyor belt. The way that works for me is, and I'm that person where you will meet me at a party, one of the questions I'll drop to you is, hey, who's the best X person you've met in your life for this function? And I maintain an inventory of those people in my life, even though I have no intention of hiring that person right now. So even before I started Maxima, I talked to a lot of people and maintained a list of the best engineers they had worked with, the best salespeople they had worked with, the best operations people they had worked with. And what happens is, through these conversations over time, you start seeing repeat patterns where 3 people will say, hey, this is the best person. And that's a very strong signal. But eventually you have to feel it out over long form of conversations. That's why what I do with a lot of my candidates is I meet them for like coffee chats, for lunches, over like a 4 or 5 session. And a lot of the time, those sessions are where they are asking me questions, where I'm able to assess their how quick they are on their feet, how they are reacting, their life experiences, One of the questions I always like to ask them is, tell me your life journey from day 0. Where were you born, and what decision did you make in your life, and what got you here? And the things that they choose to tell you also tells a lot about their journey. I'm not looking necessarily for a dramatic turn, which will be a plot of a movie, but I'm looking for things which motivates them, which left an indelible mark on their career and such, and that gives me a sense. So taking a longer time helps. And then one of the other thing that I tell all my reports that's recruiting is your duty at all times. Even if you don't have headcount, you should be spending at least 10 to 15% of the time in meeting candidates all the time. Then by the time we have headcount open, you already have a list of 4 to 5 people who are comfortable in their roles, that you can go and just have a conversation. As you know, the best people are oftentimes the best people are not actively looking.
Absolutely, and that certainly does make sense. And I guess when you're having these conversations, and obviously you want them to be excited about the company, what you guys do, and you have to map those skills into what roles you want. You gave us the example of a couple examples of people you've hired. When it comes to, and I understand we're thinking long term, but when it comes to training, when it comes to assistance, I mean, that is an investment from you and the company, obviously. How far of a gap? Like, obviously, it's going to be per person situation, but like, how far of a gap are you willing to train on versus saying, you know what, it's just too far? And the reason I ask is, I see a lot of times founders will just sit 6 months, year, 18 months, not hire because there's just like a 9.5 out of 10. And they're going to wait for that 10 out of 10 because it's just not worth it to them.
Yeah, the way we think about it is there are certain minimum domain skills that's kind of needed. Otherwise, they will be they will struggle a lot, and the burden will be a lot on the manager to train them all the time. But those testing that we are doing is for general aptitude for that function. So on engineering, as an example, we take a pretty detailed technical test, but it's not necessarily for backend alone, or the language they're going to write on, or their comfort with a certain large language model, because we know that they may not have worked on these things. These are like general problem solving things around computer science, and our folks are kind of trying to see how they think when they hold them adrift by intention, how they come back, how do they get feedback. And once we feel like on that sort of general domain thing that they are doing okay, then the narrow specific things we are willing to coach. And in fact, what we often see is that the best people are more motivated by hard challenges and autonomy and the broad scope of work, and they want to have their managers be available as a mentor to whom they can go, as if they are, just think about like at universities when they have these students studying for PhDs, they have these PhD advisors. They want their managers to behave as PhD advisors, not as quote unquote managers who are always kind of hovering over them. And same thing on sales and beyond. We are looking for domain skills. Can you get in front of the customer? Do you do their prep work? Do you get flustered? And if you are generally fine there, then we'll teach you about our space. We'll teach you about our about specific industry and another company. So that's kind of the balance. I would say that it's not like complete complete lack of domain skills at our stage will not be okay.
Absolutely. And I guess when you're thinking about hiring these people, I mean, you're hiring a lot of people with different backgrounds, definitely diverse mindsets. I guess talk to us a little bit about the team makeup and kind of how you see these different people fitting together.
Yeah. So two values that we have inside the company, among sort of 6 or 7 that I hold very dearly, is one is executing at warp speed, and second is treating the company like an owner. All of our team members are stock owners, and when you have a lot of great, diverse, talented people moving at fast speeds, while having this ownership mentality, you naturally have points where folks diverge on their point of view, right? Someone might say, we should launch product number 3, or someone might say we should first, or someone may say, hey, let's launch this product number 2 first. What we do in that natural case of disagreement is we have a conversation. We try to bring some evidence to that. It could be numbers, it could be customer feedback, and such. And then whichever idea sort of comes to the top at the beginning, we are willing to make a small bet into that, and move forward. So I'll give an example. Very early days, we didn't have a marketing department. We were thinking about how to get a marketing event going. There were a lot of opportunities, right? Go to this podcast, go to put the billboard there, and so on. And someone came with the idea that, hey, there's an OpenAI head of finance or accounting. She's doing this coaching on how to learn about AI in finance. And we had observed that a lot of our audience were hungry to learn more. Why don't we sponsor tickets for that? And we're like, okay, let's make a bet here. It sounds logical. We quickly texted 3 or 4 of our customers who we stay very close with. We gave them ABC options very quickly. 3 out of 4 picked that as an option. We're like, okay, good enough sample size. Let's make a bet. And we made a bet. This was a controversial idea. But we saw incredible turnout from them. A lot of people showed up. A lot of those were willing to convert to more opportunities for us, and so on. So that's what I recommend. Kind of debate it out. Have some facts. It could be a short pulse survey. It could be some kind of a data from the customer. And then instead of analysis paralysis and a lot of slide deck, make a short bet. Quick bet, which will not kill the company, but as you start seeing results from that, then either keep doubling down or pivot.
I love it. I really do like it when people look outside of the norm to hire, because I feel like it does bring a different lens. And I know we talk a lot about, hiring diversity, and a lot has been made of it, but I think sometimes having somebody with a different viewpoint and a different perspective is something that I value tremendously around myself. So, you're building a team with, Guinness Book of World Record holder, and, near Olympians and all this kind of stuff. And I'm like, okay, well, these are people that are very driven. I guess as you kind of do scale, it does, like you kind of alluded to, it might pose a bit of a challenge to keep that ideal. I mean, what are you hoping will be the cultural impact for the company? I mean, if you guys double headcount, triple headcount, your finger on that hiring is going to be further and further away.
Yeah. So I think about it a lot, and I've seen this again at Rubrik. What I realize is that if you are able to get leaders who are roughly or exactly matching your values and what you intend to happen, then they will percolate that. And the sub-leader, they will hire underneath that. So like when I was at Rubrik, one of our very strong culture value was velocity. We wanted to move really, really fast. It came from the CEO. No analysis paralysis. If something is due a week later, why not tomorrow? Why not today? And the CEO hired my boss, who was very impatient. And she is one of the most formidable person I've met. So even though the CEO wouldn't be in the room, she was percolating that thing. And then I'm impatient. So then the tens of people I hired underneath me could see that. And I just think that's kind of the way it works, even in societies, right? This is how sort of through progenies and through relatives and kids, the culture traits of a certain family, society, and such keeps percolating. So that's kind of the best way, but most important way. And the other is eventually the leader, which is in this case me, has to emphasize these values so that people hear it over and over. And then the final thing is, eventually culture is very simply two things: what you reward and what you penalize, right? That's the center of the culture, right? So if I am I'm just keeping on the velocity point. If I am rewarding high velocity people and high velocity action, and penalizing or discouraging through action, not words, not just words by action, then I will be able to inculcate these values even when the company becomes at a larger scale.
I love it. Yogi, fantastic discussion. Your viewpoints are great. And obviously, I know you got to get back to it, but thank you for taking the time. What's a good way of connecting if somebody does want to ask you a follow-up, or there is some other information they want?
Yeah, so love to connect. I'm at Yogi Goel, Goel, at Maxima AI on LinkedIn. Please connect with me. And our website is maxima.ai. And we are looking for great talent. We're looking for customers. We're looking to have a conversation. Please reach out.
All right, that's it for this episode. Be back again, different guest, different topic. Until then, please share this episode with somebody else that might benefit from understanding how to look for outlier candidates and how you go through slightly different hiring process. And Yogi gave us a lot of insights on how he views this, and having that diverse mindset into his team and the value he sees in the type of people they've been hiring. So I'd appreciate it if you could share it and subscribe, comment, let me know how the show's going for you. Until next time, thank you and goodbye.